Thank you.
I hadn't started the video.
I gotta get my glasses.
Did you get your glasses?
I feel bad. I had to run back home and get my hearing aids because I got down here and somebody said something to me and I turned around and went back because I couldn't hear what they said.
That's a good one.
I said, that would have been a funny council meeting.
Me screaming in your ear on
No,
everything.
I've been having to make people sign or hold up a sheet.
I need some myself.
Danny, do your hearing aids work with those loop systems? Have you had experience with that?
Yeah, I can turn it on now. Right now it's on the air, but
Yeah.
I can put it on loop. You got a loop system here?
No, I know it's
I know they do have it at the Dinner Playhouse because I go over
Yeah.
there. I just push a button.
and it works pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What brand are they?
Mine are, they're made in Germany. I'm trying to think of it.
Volkswagen.
No.
Send me a text with your brand.
Opticon, Oticon.
I gotta get some.
Maybe that's not German. Doesn't sound
They
German.
just got credit for it though.
They're pretty good. Even for somebody like me. They haven't got a white filter though.
This is being recorded.
Yeah, we're on.
Oh,
so.
no. Oh, my mic was off. Maybe she didn't hear that.
Mine was on. High five. That's good stuff.
Now I'm gonna have to come up with your presidents.
That's classic. 1 minute.
All right.
All right, we ready? It is 7 o'clock, and I would like to call the October 3rd DeSoto City Council meeting to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Lane.
Here.
Daniels.
Here.
Hanamichael.
Here.
Ritter.
Here.
Murdoch.
Here.
All present.
Okay, I would invite everyone to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item tonight is our consent agenda. We have approved the minutes of our council meeting of September 19th, approved pay ordinance number 863, and approved cereal malt beverage application for Cedar Valley Forest. Any items to be pulled or discussed from the consent agenda? Not
I'll make a motion. We approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Lane.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, our next item is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on tonight's agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted on by the council during this meeting. There's a 4-minute time limit. Anyone wish to address the council tonight? Please step up, state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Cook, 30351 West 88th Terrace, DeSoto. I'd like to bring to the council's attention and hopefully have you guys discuss it, is an issue at Corliss and 87th Street, that intersection. Back in August, I had some email and phone call exchange with Mike Brumgart on the city's behalf about, at that time, excessive enforcement that was happening by the sheriff's department, supposedly for people slow and go running the stop sign. The reason it's a concern is because myself and many others in the area, we've nicknamed, whoever the deputy is on that particular day, Captain Corliss, but it's an everyday occurrence for the enforcement. It's always brought to the public's attention by the sheriff's department that it's due to complaints. Now, we know they're not going to say who it's from or anything like that. We're not asking for that. But, every day, and it's more than just the 2 deputies that we hire full-time. There's also the motorcycle police officer. So in talking with Mike on behalf of the city, it was told to me that, yes, we get these complaints, or the sheriff's department does, that it's limited enforcement. My comment back was, gee, somebody's getting lied to, essentially. Am I getting lied to because it's more than limited? Because when it's every day, multiple hours a day, unfortunately, even my own wife got stopped. And the concern is that if we could zoom in, and I appreciate the city's help here, on the northwest corner, there's a lot of trees. When you stop at the stop sign coming south on Corliss, the line of sight is such that those trees that are overgrown don't give a lot of visibility. So when you're technically past the stop sign at this viewpoint, but for this argument's sake, close enough. The deputies sit further to the west there. So there is no line of sight. And I guess my contention is if a driver stopping at the sign can't see where the deputy's sitting, they can't see the driver. Now the contention is that people stop at the stop sign and then come forward to get that view. That's when people are getting stopped. So, what I'm requesting of the city, now Mike had replied back to me on August 7th that he saw no need from a safety standpoint for removing or cutting back those trees to increase the visibility. I take the position that, we haven't had any wrecks that I know of at that intersection, thank goodness, which is a good thing. Why the enforcement? Now, since August 7, the enforcement has dropped off. However, that doesn't address the visibility issue. And, what I would ask is, could 20, 30 feet, whatever the magic number is of those trees on the left of the screen that you're looking at, be cut back to give drivers headed southbound on Corliss more open, better visibility of said intersection? Because I believe that is potentially the issue that's causing either people to stop, roll through, or roll through all the way. I would think that if it's a local neighbor on this street or in the area that is complaining, then that clears itself up. I think public safety would improve, and the sheriff's department can spend time elsewhere within the city limits that I think their time and efforts could be better spent. So with that, I thank you and open if anyone has any questions of me.
Any questions for Mr. Cook?
Jeff had called me. I went out and drove this section, and he is right. You have to stop back at the stop sign and then roll up to see down that road. I don't know what the line of sight requirements are for things like that, but you do have to pull up to see. But it's also the same way in several other of our streets. 91st Street from the high school, it's the stop sign's 5 foot back, and then the marker's 5 foot up by the road, so you have to pull up to see on Lexington. So, but I did go out and drive it, and it is very somewhat hard to see down that street unless you pull up past the stop sign.
But isn't it a 3-way stop?
It is.
So the car on the other side would be stopped over
Should
there.
be.
And I'll say this straight up. I am one of the ones that has called and complained I live on 87th Street. I drive that multiple times a day. I have not seen the sheriff's department out there every day, multiple hours a day. Part of the reason the complaint is I have kids that cross that street and people do not stop. And when I say do not stop, we're talking 40, 45 miles an hour. Do not stop, blow straight through that thing in a very hazardous manner for any pedestrians that are out there. So when I pull up every morning to that tree, because I almost always come 87th to Corliss to go into Shawnee, Lenexa, Shawnee. If you're at that first tree right there, second tree, you can still see the stop sign. So I hear you. I understand what you're saying. I don't see the thing. And it's not that they're slow rolling through. It's they're blowing through. And they're blowing through at times of the day that kids are getting off of the school bus. And I've sat there and watched it.
I mean, I'm willing to poll my neighbors. I mean, I can't speak for them, and I won't. It's real easy to get the sheriff logs and talk to the deputies and find out how they're spending their time. So I'm not going to debate, hours and days. But I have other people, that I can come in and speak on that behalf. Yes, when you're going south on Corliss, you can see the stop sign, but you can't see far enough down. Now, I also would contend that where the sheriff deputy sits, he's also impeding traffic on a small blacktop road because cars coming eastbound on 87th have to drive around him or her that is working. Now, most of the stops that we see it, because I live just down the street and you hear the siren when they pull the people over, they're never catching anybody coming northbound on Corliss. It's always southbound. And that's why I take the position that it's a sight visibility issue. I can't speak to speeding and blowing through the stop sign, and I would agree with you that, that is wrong too. But neighbors, friends.
So many times.
What is the issue with the clear? Do we not have right of way there, Mike? Is that,
Well, yeah, right away could be an issue, but I mean the issue with the clearing is, and I don't think from a safety standpoint, these pictures are from 2014, but I was out there in August, and it's not materially different. These are the trees he's talking about, and I just from a safety standpoint do not see.
And our city mower just mowed those trees.
I would say, yeah. So this year we fell behind on the mowing, and so this area in here was high with grass. All along here really was high. So we did mow that down. That was an issue, view line to the south, and this is always kept pretty well by the homeowner there, kind of like it is there. But I think this picture is just about in line with the traffic, with the sign. And you can see all the way up Corliss.
But you see, if I may, Mike, the stop sign that we're talking about, how close it is to the corner. I mean, you stop at or before the stop sign, if I remember my driver's ed. From high school, you roll forward because you're trying to look to make sure there's no one coming, speeders, kids, whatever the case may be. So I guess what I would like to put before the council is, what can we do so the sheriff's department doesn't have to spend all their time out there? What can we do for public safety? What can we do to have other citizens or Councilman Daniels, as he's admitted, to call or, ask for this extra enforcement? I guess I would like to suggest, can we try cutting the trees back and see what happens?
Well,
because if we do nothing, nothing changes now, does it? So we have to try something.
But cutting the trees back won't change the excessive speed.
That I would agree.
I mean, and that's been the reason for the complaint and the complaints.
I think
excessive speed.
with and often the complaints go to the sheriff directly and don't come through City Hall, and that's
right.
The function. That's fine. We try very hard to be responsive to those complaints and have these discussions. And when we do target some enforcement, if there actually is an issue and we're issuing tickets, then the complaint is it's validated, right? And so it's a line we draw between those getting the tickets and those.
But I think some of the stops and or tickets, because nobody in their right mind would roll through a stop sign if they saw a sheriff deputy sitting there. So if a driver can't see a sheriff deputy, now if they do and they roll through, then they're stupid. They need to get a ticket.
Yeah, but are you saying it's okay to do it illegal as long as there's nobody seeing you do it? I mean,
No.
I guess I'm a little confused because
No.
it's,
Well, I mean,
if somebody's breaking the law and they're rolling through the stop sign and they're not stopping, which is usually what happens. I know what you're trying to say is that they're stopping, but then they're rolling forward to look.
Right. And that's when they get stopped.
Not sure why they're having to do that when it's a stop sign they're at, but I guess just being,
Because where the
extra
deputy
precaution.
sits, his or her line of sight is blocked to see the
I
stop.
get what you're saying there.
What they see is the rolling forward, which occurred
I
after.
understand what you're saying, Jeff.
Yeah.
I guess when you come to the stop sign and you stop and there's nobody stopped there and then you go forward.
Right.
Well, can I make a suggestion
Yeah,
that we,
doesn't make
what if
sense.
we ask the sheriff's department to provide their enforcement on Corliss instead of on 87th? Because it's the same thing. I mean, they're looking for somebody running the stop signs on Corliss. That's the issue. So what, if they're in plain sight, that obviously helps speeding as well. That, right? That helps bring down the rate at which the vehicles are traveling. So what if we just ask them to provide their enforcement on occupying Corliss rather than 87th?
Mike, did this stretch of road here have the speed indicator put on it? Was that where it was put at?
No.
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 Okay.
Oh, the truck? No.
They're little.
So, Rob,
Because I would ask, they can also catch somebody who is blowing through the 87th Street stop sign in that case. What if we try that?
certainly. I mean, yeah, whatever enforcement takes place. Rob, your dad's allowed them to sit in the driveway.
He's made that drive available to him.
This one.
Mhm.
Yeah, we just tell them, if you're going to be out there patrolling, do it here rather than back here. That's fair enough. That's easy enough.
Or even from, they're parking along the right of way on 87th. Why can't they park along the right of way on Corliss
Yeah.
near the stop sign?
Just somewhere where we don't have this
This visibility
Sightline.
issue.
Yeah, because from a traffic flow standpoint, if you're coming south on Corliss, this is roughly equal with the sign. You can clearly see the other stop sign there.
Right.
Really, no reason to roll forward looking for other traffic.
Yeah, because
so I don't think.
because
these
where the
trees-
where the 87th Street stop sign is, there's no reason to roll forward to see the traffic there.
Yeah, and so these trees aren't causing an issue from there.
Right. And from an
Same
enforcement
over here.
perspective, they can enforce it on Corliss the same as they can enforce it on
Absolutely.
87th.
And so
All right.
that's
I get the plan.
do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, please come forward. No, just give your name and address.
My name's Mike Vukas. I live on 30553 West 88th Corliss. I think we're in kind of a no-win situation here. So, not to argue with what the council members have said, if someone blows past that stop sign, they doggone need a ticket. But I will tell you that some of your officers are giving tickets and they are not blowing through the stop sign. The argument of no one in their right mind should hit that stop sign and then worry about anything once they move through it, I have not been trained that way. So I am a motorcycle rider, and I've been trained that you always look and you always pay attention whether or not when you go through an intersection. So with that said, I will go through that intersection, and if it was probably a normal car, I probably would do nothing. But seeing a police car sitting way back, I'll touch my brakes. Now, to an officer, that's rolling through the stop sign. After I've already stopped, I touch the brakes. Now, where I have seen them sit back, in no way do they have visibility of that stop sign. And if you see someone blow through a stop sign, that's pretty easy. You give them a ticket. Rolling through when you cannot see the stop sign, that can be argumentative on both sides. So, I mean, I see the point that Jeff makes is that if people are going to blow that stop sign, they're going to do it with the trees or without the trees. But without the trees, it will clearly give the officer the distance, the view, and seeing that that person has come to a complete stop and is rolling across there and happens to see an officer and touches his brakes, doesn't get a roll through. So I honestly don't know what's happened, but I've lived in DeSoto for 18 years, 19 years. And this year, I don't know what happened, but Lori B, there was a month to 6 weeks, like Jeff was saying, we had text messages going out from neighbor to neighbor going, they're back behind there. And I will tell you, there was one time that I would like to have fought it, but I'd come up and I talked to the prosecutor, and I'd asked the prosecutor whether or not they could guarantee me whether I'd have the camcorders on the officer's vehicle. And she said that she could not guarantee that. And I will tell you, in the conversation that I had with the officer, she was very polite. You know, I told him what exactly happened is that I touched my brakes after I came to a complete stop. And that's when you saw me roll through that stop sign. And his remark was, well, that's your word against my word. And that's when I wanted the camcorder, and the prosecutor couldn't guarantee me it, so it wasn't worth my time. So that was probably a year and a half ago. But I don't know what happened this year, but I didn't know that it was still a stop sign issue. If what's going on is just a stop sign issue, and like this gentleman says, they are blowing through it, the officer should easily be able to give them a ticket. But it's not happening to just people blowing through it. So my concern was that, and there is concerns from some of the other neighbors, something else is going on. And you could probably pull up the in the database and the officers, and it would be interesting to find out, and I haven't inquired on it, is how many of those same tickets are given at the other intersections in Corliss. So that's all I have to say.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Hey, Mayor, if I could, I know those signs haven't been there forever, but would it be possible to add some stop sign ahead signs? You know, would that help?
I'm not sure
the
there
blow through?
are already. The thing that comes to mind with the blow-bys are the flags. There's
I just didn't
flags
know
that
if
could
there-
put on the stop
I
sign.
didn't know if there was something that could be put up. You know,
Yeah, that's
100 or
not a
200
bad
yards
idea.
back that says stop ahead. You know, you see them all over town.
Yeah, I'm not sure there aren't already, but I'm not sure there are. So that's a good suggestion too.
Find out if they are, yeah, because that was an unstopped, uncontrolled
It was,
in
yeah,
the
until
north-south for a long time.
05 or so.
Yeah, I don't know how long they've been there, and there may be some, and I just didn't see them, but I just thought.
Yep.
I'm not trying to
I
drag
don't
this
see
on.
any.
But I just
I
thought
don't
maybe
see
it might
any.
help.
That thought? Good thought.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else wish to address the council tonight? Daryl, you haven't been here for a while. Do you want to say anything? All right. Okay. Old business, we have none. So new business. Before we move to that, I have a couple of appointments I'd like to make to some of our boards. Tonight, we have with us Teresa Kellner, who is going to join us on our park board. And so I would like to get council concurrence to put Teresa Kellner on our park board.
Do you need a motion?
Yeah, I will make a motion to accept the mayor's appointment of Teresa Kellner to the Parks Board.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much, Teresa. We have a meeting Monday night.
I need your email address. before you leave.
Next, I have a position to fill on the Planning Commission, and I would like council consent to appoint Roger Templin to the Planning Commission.
I will make a motion to accept the mayor's appointment of Roger Templin to the Planning Commission.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
One quick question. Is this a replacement or is this an addition?
It's a replacement. Roger is going to replace Richard Hempel.
Okay. That's all.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you. See, now you can go. You can stay.
Or stay.
Or stay.
You can stay. You can go.
Thank you again. New business. A, consider approval of City Hall facility master plan.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Actually, last December is when you last saw this document, and we went through a lot of the information as far as costs and some of the internal workings of the City Hall and how it works, and office locations and mapping, and a lot of sort of real detailed information on the building itself, and some recommendations on improvements that we should make. A couple of those, I think, are in the 2020 budget. The security plan is something we're working on, the asbestos abatement as well. But one thing, going back to our notes, was the discussion on the usage agreements. And a lot of things have evolved over time, and there were a lot of different, or a lot of inconsistencies in how areas were treated. Some people had different rates for the same space, and so we're trying to pull these things together and come up with a consistent plan, or a more consistent plan. It isn't perfect, but we're working on trying to at least get some of these users into at least a category where we can say here's sort of the varying areas of how we're going to approach your use of City Hall and the community center in the future. I do want to point out Jay Garvin also did a lot of the work as far as cost estimates and detailing some of the things that need to be done to the building, but also Jay's the one that has to administer, and really he's the person that deals with these folks when they're coming and going, because they need access through the Parks and Recreation departments. It's his staff that typically opens doors and does all the monitoring. So Jay's really the point person on operating and getting things done here within City Hall. We broke them down into three areas. We've got profit, semi-public, and community surface. As you can see, the Great Life Golf and Fitness has an agreement through 2022. Right now they're paying $575 a month, and it increases $50 a month. At this point, I mean, they have a lease and agreement, everything's current, so there's really no significant recommendation other than in 2022 that we renegotiate the lease and we put some sort of consumer price index into their plan. I don't know, it's increasing $50 a month. I'm not sure if there's any particular rhyme or reason for that, but it's that per month, that's annually.
I think it was there to give them something, move them something closer to a commercial rental rate or lease rate is what, I mean.
Right.
It was very advantageous for them as they were starting their business.
Yeah.
So we need to move off that starting point.
Moving on to, we have three. I mean, the fitness, Great Life Fitness, the Tiger Taekwondo, White Tiger Taekwondo, and then Jazzercise. Both the White Tiger Taekwondo and Jazzercise use the same room, but they're getting different rates. And actually, Jazzercise uses the room more often, quite a bit more often per. So we felt that we came up with an agreement of $10 per hour probably would be a consistent price, because we do have to have some staff monitoring while this is going on. Now, they're not there full time, but they are around, so they are doing other tasks. But once again, these are just discussions that Mike and Jay and I had about what we think is a reasonable rate to help cover our costs, but not also be burdensome towards these two tenants. And we came up with a flat rate of $10 per hour. One thing also we want to make sure that we get into an agreement is that we have the right of first refusal on these rooms for our programs. Now, right now, there hasn't been any kind of real conflicts, but as we grow and there's more demand put on Parks and Recreation for services and classes, there might be a conflict, and we want to make sure that we've got at least that in future leases. The semi-public groups, Arts Council, Cemetery Board, the DeSoto Youth Football, and we also have the Old Time Fiddlers, Pickers, and Singers and DeSoto Days. The Arts Council, as you know, is on the lower level. They're charged $8 an hour for the art shows when there's after hours on weekends. This does not meet our costs when we have to have somebody after hours indoor or at the facility, and then they get a lesser rate when we're active at City Hall. Now, while they're, once again, we still need to have somebody here to kind of monitor what's going on. Now, once again, during normal working hours, but they still have to be within the vicinity, so they can't just, all of a sudden be called to go out and drag a ball diamond or something like that. So there does need to be, I think it needs to be more of a consistent charge, and that's kind of what we came up with for our recommendation. We do have an agreement through 2023, so once again, we've got to honor that till our lease is up. But at that point, we want to come up with a clause at that time that will cover our city staff time, and then also have some sort of increase to cover our costs on an annual basis should there be a change. Then we need to pass on to the tenant. Cemetery board simply just has a space on the third floor. One thing we want to do is get everybody out of there. It's really not a place where we need to have, we just use it sparingly for storage, and that's about it. And we really don't like to have the idea of having to open it up for them to come up and just check records, things like that. So I felt it'd just be easier to move their file cabinet down to the council room, and then they can have pretty much access to it during City Hall hours, and we don't have to worry about anybody being up on the third floor, and then we would not charge them for the use of the space. It's really, they don't meet at the building anymore, and so it's just really just a matter of allowing them to have their file storage within City Hall. One of the groups is a little more not necessarily problematic, but they've got a lease, but it's expired over 10 years ago and it's never been renewed. It's just one of those things, unfortunately, that's slipped through the cracks. However, we'd like to at least start charging them $100 a year for the space, and at least also get an agreement where they've got some care and some responsibilities on their end to get that low, pretty much still a pretty low rate. And then if they do choose to have meetings, that they get charged for the senior center rates per our fee resolution. Basically, the same thing. A little bit applies towards the pickers and singers. They used to use the gymnasium for a greater part of the day, which actually did have some conflicts with it, and then we also charged more for the gym. But they've since moved to the senior center, and they seem to be liking it okay. So we prefer to have them there than in the gymnasium. So I'd like to not charge them while they're in the senior center to help sort of keep them there. And then if they do decide to use the gymnasium, then we would just use the fee resolution that we've discussed for them and for everybody else. DeSoto Days, we obviously we donate several $1,000s to them, some to the sheriff's departments and trash dumpsters for cleanup, but $4,000 goes directly to the committee. And we feel like with that support, they should also be, if they do choose to use the facility hall in and above what they already get, that they should be charged for that space. And so that'd be also per fee resolution. The Historical Society in the past has operated out of City or had meetings here, but they have now since moved to their building downtown, and so they don't really use City Hall, but we do want to at least acknowledge that they've been a tenant in the past and that our policy would be just to charge them what we have in our adopted fee resolution. The other groups that we have are just purely community service. We don't have any fee charges that we're thinking for them other than some basic things, paying for internet, phone. That also includes the sheriff's department. But they do have a current agreement for space. And then, of course, MS 150, we do require a temporary use permit because we did close some access to City Hall and actually the Aquatic Center parking lot. So with that, that's kind of what staff is thinking about is adopting as our formal policy. Certainly I'll stand for any questions that you all may have at this time.
Okay. Questions for Brad?
So Brad, you might just reiterate, so all that stuff you just went over has been incorporated into the copy of the facility master plan?
Yeah, that's correct.
So it's kind of just a word for word incorporation of that. Everything else, did we make any other changes to the rest of the document?
I did make a few changes only because, like I said, it was presented in December, and so there's some dates and some verbiage about when we said we needed to update some agreements. And like the sheriff's one has been updated, and so there were some, I guess, more tents and things like that were changed, but nothing significant at all. I didn't change any of the building maintenance costs or revenues or expenditures or anything like that.
So a lot of I'd kind of put this thing into third, categories of a third. A third of it was these use agreements that we kind of had to get our hands on and try to normalize those. A third of it is long-term plans for what we think the future use of the building's going to be. So we talked about renovating the upstairs and moving uses around. It's a long-term thing. And then the other third was kind of this building maintenance and upkeep, just coming up with some ballpark of a budgetary need on an annual basis. And we started down that path for the 2020 budget, establishing the building maintenance fund for this building and the aquatics building and others. That's not quite up to this level, so we've got about a $60,000 need here. Next year we're $35,000 in that fund. So yeah, I mean it's more than halfway there. So that's kind of it. So the rest of it, so the third that Brad just presented is more or less new information for you tonight. The rest, there may be some tweaks in here, but it's largely the same as you saw in December.
Okay. So, action on this, what do we, any of these fee changes would come back?
The fee resolution will be presented again. Yeah, of course, as part of the fee resolution. Of course, any of these leases would come back again. I don't know that there's a need to formally adopt this facility plan, but if there's some acknowledgement that this is in general a good direction to proceed with regard to this building, I think one of my big motivations for getting this plan worked through was these, requests that we've had from one group or another to make use of the facility in one way or another, to kind of have some document behind a policy statement to kind of support, some direction from the council to me so that I can effectively manage those requests. So I think this does it. If everybody's okay with this document, I think we can move forward with it.
Yeah, I didn't see anything to not agree with, so.
Okay.
All right.
Well, if that's it, then we can just we can proceed with these lease negotiations and fee resolutions, and we'll just take it on a case-by-case basis with future actions.
Okay. Moving on, we'll go to 4B, consider final plat for Carriage Houses 8.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Council, what you have before you is a replat for Carriage Houses number 8. So, what we do is when they initially start a unit, they file a plat, which has gone through the process and been approved by Planning Commission and Council. But when they are ready to start selling off units, because they've got walls and roof on the building, they still have a few items still left to finish out for the building official. But now that they got walls and spaces, they're ready to sell units. And they go back and they survey each unit down to the square foot, and then they come up with tracks. And then they have to replat each unit, so then they can sell them off individually. And what you have before you is the replat for their 8th unit, and there's 2 more to go before they're finished out. This is Building X on the final development plan, and like I said, this is the 8th time it's been here before the council, so it's pretty much a standard procedure. And we'll have a 9th and a 10th at some point as well, so they seem to be doing pretty well out there.
Any questions for Brad on this plat? If not, a motion?
I'll make a motion. We approve the replat of Building 8.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamacher.
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Our next item is our executive session. Someone wish to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. We recess into executive session at 7:38 for 15 minutes to discuss land acquisition pursuant to statutory basis KSA 754319B6 with the open meeting resuming in the city council chamber at 7:53.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
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 Opposed? All right.